Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Super Bowl 51 prediction and analysis. Well, after a long 6-month journey from week 1 back all the way in early September to now going into the first week of February, the 2016-2017 NFL season is officially coming to a close. And I just would like to say it's been a great joy in having a lot of different people watch my videos and comment on my videos and provide their insight on my picks and my thoughts. And I would just like to say to everybody out there that's watched those videos, from all the prognosticators, just everybody else, I would like to say thank you for another great year of making predictions. And I am looking forward to next season already. And as all NFL fans know, the NFL is a year-long journey that as soon as the Super Bowl ends, every football fan can look forward to the scouting combine. And then you have free agency after that, and then the draft comes up, and then you have OTAs, and then we'll get right back around to training camp back in July, and we will start this process all over again. So from the bottom of my heart, I just would like to thank everybody for all I talked about the games last week and my prediction this week. Thank you for all the kind words and support for my channel and this season on my picks this year. So thank you to everybody once again. But last week for the conference title games, I will admit I was stunned by both outcomes because of how lopsided they were. So obviously last week against the spread, I went 0-2 because I thought the Packers and the Steelers both would have put up fights to cover. I had a little bit more faith in the Packers, just because, I thought Aaron Rodgers would play very well, but then obviously as you watch the game, the Green Bay Packer defense was really no match for the explosiveness and the speed of the Atlanta offense. If you look at it, when you look at what Matt Ryan did, Matt Ryan is the first postseason quarterback in NFL history to throw for 3+ touchdowns in 3 or more consecutive postseason games. He threw for a franchise-high 4 passing touchdowns against the Packers, which was incredibly impressive. And the Atlanta Falcons offense as a team was the 8th team in NFL history to score 35-plus points in back-to-back postseason games. And if you look at the drives, in 7 of the first 8 drives that Atlanta went on, they either kicked field goals or scored touchdowns. I believe Matt Ryan had already almost thrown for almost about 300 yards of offense by the beginning of the third quarter. That's how absurd and dynamic his offense was. And the Packers, even though through the beginning, and for a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans, that must have been sickening to watch Mason Crosby miss a 41-yard field goal after he had made a 56 and 51-yard field goal to sink the Cowboys. So that must have been painful to watch, Cowboy fans to watch Mason Crosby miss that kind of easy kick for him. And then right after that, you had Ripkowski fumbling at the 5-yard line, which might have been the kiss of death at that point, because the field goal, again, that was a bad tone setter, but it wasn't really the difference. If Ripkowski gets near the end zone, we could have a different conversation, but after that, Atlanta just put their gas on the pedal and never let go. And then by the end of that game as well, Aaron Rodgers, he ended up having a decent stat line. I think he did it for 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did throw that one interception when a Hail Mary finally failed for Aaron Rodgers. But again, as the game went on, by the time they made those scores, the game was so out of reach that nobody had really cared about those scores because they were all in garbage time, especially those last couple. I also want to congratulate Julio Jones. He becomes the 3rd wide receiver in NFL postseason history to have multiple games of 180-plus yards receiving, which is a big kudos to him. And, again, if he, didn't have that foot injury, or if Mohamed Sanu, who definitely took control of the early part of the game, he could have easily gone for 200 yards. So that was an incredible effort by him. And to me, when I just look at what the Packers were by the end of that game, the injuries had taken all control of the game. They had lost Ty Montgomery to a rib injury. They had lost Jake Ryan, one of their safeties, to an injury. They lost T.J. Lang, one of their starting guards, to an injury. And I know one of the Micah Hyde went out of the game. But by the end of that game, the Packers were just basically finding people just holding the spots. At one point in the game, Troy Guion, one of their defensive tackles, was having to sub in for offensive line because they had run out of offensive linemen. So, you know what, at the end of the day, congratulations to the Falcons. They put up a phenomenal effort, and even if the Packers were fully healthy, I don't think they would have been able to beat this Falcons team. But congratulations to the Green Bay Packers as well, to go from 4-6 to get to 12-6 and get into the NFC Championship game with how much talent you had and how Aaron Rodgers basically had to carry that team on his arm. A tremendous amount of credit should be given to you for that effort. Though with the Packers, I would say that you need to, if Ted Thompson, who I know is stepping down, the new general manager that comes in for the Packers, you need to spend money in free agency and get some more talent to help Aaron Rodgers. Because as long as this team is basically going to stay in the shape it is, they're going to, maybe if Aaron Rodgers plays this well again, which he can, they're never going to win another Super Bowl if this is the talent on this team that is going to be staying around for the long haul. So, congrats for Atlanta for making it there. And then the New England-Pittsburgh game, that was a difference of where I felt like with Green Bay-Atlanta, you felt that the one team had just ran through injuries. The second game, that was just one team just in every phase of the game being better than the other. Of course, with what happened with Pittsburgh, Le'Veon Bell, after the first two drives, goes out for the game. And I know he had a groin injury, but again, I'm not going to give Le'Veon Bell that much slack on that. You know why? Because he told the media afterward, you know what, I've been playing with this injury for weeks. And I understand maybe if some Pittsburgh fans, they watch this and, you know, I'm just saying, you know, I'm coming as a Ravens fan, and I'm, you know, trying to bash the Steelers. No, I'm just presenting the argument of he ran for the Steelers' single-game postseason record in the back-to-back games before that. It's the AFC Championship game. So obviously that injury was not hampering him within that 2-week span. And why did he pull out then? That's all. He pulled it. You know, here's a good analogy. He essentially Aqib himself in one of the bigger moments. And to me, if I was a Steeler fan, again, I know he could have had, you know, suffered severe injury. But you know what? I don't know if he would have won the game anyway, but I at least would have commended him for trying to push through it, even dealing with an injury for weeks. Okay? Le'Veon Bell could have had groin surgery if he had, you know, torn it, or, you know, he could have tried to play through it if they would have won the game. But I'm not going to give that much slack saying, oh, you know, we need to try to heal it. You know, Martellus Bennett, the tight end for the Patriots, he's been hampered by a cracked bone in his ankle, or his foot. And he's still going out there playing games. Okay? And again, we could talk about the severity of injury. Fair enough. But I think Le'Veon Bell should deserve more criticism for that, because I just think that is wrong, that if he was dealing with that injury for weeks, he chooses, after only 2 drives in the AFC Championship game, to just sit out. And again, D'Angelo Williams tried his best, but I just think, again, Le'Veon Bell should have played through it. Even if, you know, unless it completely had torn off from the end there, which I totally get, he should have played through it as long as he could have. Because to me, that was a weak, Aqib Talib, Patriot type of move, which, you know, could have altered the game for Pittsburgh in more of a positive direction. But watching that game, just to get off that for a second, to look back at the whole game, New England's offense was spectacular. Chris Hogan had the same stat line as Julio Jones, 9 receptions, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Those were career highs for him, and for a Patriot receiver in a postseason game in the first place. And just looking at how the Steelers played defense, it was actually quite amazing how wide open and how easy Tom Brady was able to stand there with a clean pocket virtually the whole game, and no Steelers were around Hogan or basically any of the targets that he, you know, was throwing to. And when you hear guys like Bud Dupree and Mike Mitchell basically saying, well, we weren't prepared for a flea flicker, we weren't prepared for how fast they were going to play, I really would have to look at Mike Tomlin and say, that's not a good look for you if your players are openly admitting that you were not prepared to play for the Patriots. Where if I was coaching to play the Patriots, I would tell my whole team, we're going to prepare as the hardest we have the entire year, and we are not going to let anything go to chance of what the Patriots might do. again, they pulled a flea flicker out against us, and they executed it very well. So don't say that you weren't, not expecting a flea flicker. In some ways, I always kind of said those trick plays, in some twisted way, were a sign of respect from the Patriots, saying, well, we need to pull these out in order, to get victories. Because remember, in the game against us, not only did they pull out the flea flicker, they pulled out Shea McClellan jumping the lineman. Like, Shea McClellan pulled out Bobby Wagner. And it worked great, but how often does New England try that? But, congrats to Tom Brady and Belichick as well. This is going to be their 7th Super Bowl together, most by any combo in NFL history. This is going to also be for Brady. It was his 24th postseason win in his 9th game with 3 or more passing touchdowns in the postseason, tying him with Joe Montana for the most such games in NFL history. And it was just one of those games where New England just in every facet of the game, like I said earlier, was just the better team. This was the better team in every way. And that's the thing. Green Bay, I think Atlanta had more talent, but Green Bay was ravaged by injury. Pittsburgh was just outplayed. And I think, again, now with Ben Roethlisberger thinking about retirement, I hope he does not, because I would like to see some parity in the AFC, because if Big Ben Roethlisberger does retire, which I will say I do not believe he will, but if he does, that basically means for the AFC, besides the Oakland Raiders, and you could even maybe throw in the Broncos if Paxton or Trevor, or, shout out to Keith Bailey, easy another for you to prognosticate. He brought up the Titans. The Titans are even like a minuscule nit on that conversation. But to me, in all seriousness, in my opinion, besides the Oakland Raiders, there will be no team in the AFC that I could feel like would challenge the Patriots legitimately with what they have around them. So I hope Ben doesn't retire, just because, again, I don't know if Ben will ever win, but the Steelers are like the most credible threat right now to beat the Patriots in the bigger games at the moment than any other team in the AFC right now. So we'll see. But those are my thoughts on those couple games. All right, so time for my pick, the moment that you've been waiting for. So in the Super Bowl, this is New England, Atlanta. I had New England, Dallas. And if you remember in the beginning of my video, I had New England winning the Super Bowl, and I'm going to stick with that. So the spread is -3, and I'm going to take New England -3 and New England straight up to give the Patriots their 5th Super Bowl in 9 tries, which would tie them with the Niners and the Cowboys, one away from the Steelers, and give Tom Brady his 5th Super Bowl ring, making him and Charles Haley the only 2 players with 5 Super Bowls. All right, so time for my reason I'm picking the Patriots to win. When I look at what the New England Patriots have, is the experience and the better defense. Those are my 2 main reasons of picking the Patriots to win. Atlanta, look, this has been a great story, and I look at what Atlanta's been able to do. And I would tell the Patriots this: your goal is not to stop the Atlanta offense. Your job, it is to contain it. And I think, again, what the Patriots are going to do, or attempt to do, is they're going to take out Julio Jones. That's the most effective weapon outside of the quarterback for Atlanta to use. So they'll double team him. They're probably going to put Mohamed Sanu on Eric Rowe. I think Sanu's only about an inch taller, so they're about the same height. And then they're going to have Logan Ryan play Gabriel in the slot. And to me, I just think it's something where those one-on-one matchups, I would give Sanu a slight edge over Eric Rowe, but I would give Logan Ryan a slight edge over Taylor Gabriel. And also, it's the aspect of where when you look at New England, they have the number 1 overall defense in the NFL. Atlanta has the number 1 overall offense. In the last 6 times that this has occurred, where the number 1 offense play the number one defense. 4 of those 6 times, the number one defense beat the number one offense. In Atlanta, they are the second highest points per game average on defense to make it to a Super Bowl. And the other one is the 08 Cardinals, who gave up 26.6 points per game. I believe Atlanta's given up 25.8. Again, you could, say some of that's garbage time because Atlanta gets on such a lead. Fair enough, but that's still a number that is relevant. And if you look at Atlanta's defense, the lowest amount of points they've given up at least is 16. But that's kind of the outlier. In every other game, besides that game against Denver, in which they won, they've given up no fewer than 24 points a game. So if the floor is 24 points, with Tom Brady in his offense, I easily could see Tom Brady getting up 30, 35 points, which may be enough if the New England defense can make enough stops to get them the win. And also, when I look at this game, there's a unique matchup, or there's a unique advantage that, or there are two advantages that New England has that Atlanta does not. One is that for me, the Atlanta Falcons do not have a power type of running back. Because again, if you had Dion Lewis and James White compared to Freeman and Coleman, I would take Freeman and Coleman over those two. But if you push those aside, Atlanta, besides Patrick DeMarco, their fullback, which I don't really expect them to use as a running back, the Pats have LeGarrette Blount. He is the power, short line running back that the Atlanta Falcons do not have a counter for. Because Dion Lewis could essentially, take out one of their running backs, and James White will be their pass-catching running back, which Freeman or Coleman both can do. But the Atlanta Falcons do not have a power type of running back, and I would say in this short yardage situation, I could definitely see LeGarrette Blount being used a good amount to irritate the Atlanta Falcons defense. And two, there's an aspect with Dan Quinn, who, by the way, is going to be appearing in his third Super Bowl over the last 4 years. He was the defensive coordinator in 2013 and 2014 against the Seattle Seahawks, and now he's the head coach of this one for Atlanta. I think there is an advantage, there's more of an advantage for Bill Belichick, knowing that he and his offense played Dan Quinn's defense before with Seattle. Because since Dan Quinn was a disciple of Pete Carroll, Dan Quinn, all he basically knows is the Pete Carroll style way of defense. And he is trying to get players and a mentality that is very similar to that. I'm not saying Dan Quinn runs every single thing Pete Carroll does, but the style of defense Atlanta wants to play is exactly what, it's Pete Carroll like. So he'll watch some of that tape and he'll try to mirror it with the Atlanta Falcons now. And again, Atlanta has some, great defensive players. Vic Beasley, leading the league in sacks, defensive player of the year candidate. You have Deion Jones. You have DeAndre Campbell. You have Robert Alford. You have Rashid Hagman, who I like a lot. They Courtney Upshaw is not bad in his role. They have Dwight Freeney, who can still be a very good designated pass rusher in those moments. And again, Atlanta has some decent defensive pieces, but they're not like Seattle, what Dan Quinn has. So I feel like New England can take advantage of that. And it's also the aspect of New England, I believe, will be able to control the clock. Because the one thing you don't want to do for Atlanta is give them extra possessions. Because Atlanta, the downfall of them is their explosiveness. They can score a touchdown within 1 or 2 minutes. And I believe they will have at least one drive where they do that, possibly. But if you give the ball to the Patriots after 1 or 2 minutes, and the Patriots go on 8, 10, maybe even 12-play drives in the game, you're going to have your defense worn out. And then New England will go in for, the final blow at the end of the game when your defense gets gassed. So I see the Patriots controlling the game, controlling the clock with the running game, with LeGarrette Blount. And I just see, again, with Matt Ryan, as great as the offense is, I just think Brady is going to be able to take advantage of more of how the Atlanta defense is. And just with that being in mind, I can't go against with the better defense and Brady compared to the more explosive offense and Matt Ryan. It should be a phenomenal game. I could easily see this being very high scoring. Though, again, the Atlanta defense, they've surprised me, so they may be able to hold New England to fewer points than I think. But I'm going to take the Patriots here. They have the more experience, the better head coach. They have the better defense. I'm going to take that, trust that number one defense versus offense line there. And I just don't think that with what LeGarrette Blount can do for a power back, I don't think Atlanta will be able to have a response. And I think the Atlanta defense will be gassed by the end of the game just because how controlling and how meticulous the Patriots are going to want to play this game against a very explosive, twitchy, very quick Atlanta team. Also, a couple other things. Tom Brady has never lost to the Atlanta Falcons in his career. 4-0 against them. And Matt Ryan is also 0-2 against the New England Patriots. And they and the Pittsburgh Steelers are the only two teams Matt Ryan has never beaten in his career. Again, that's not going to be really a fair stat because he only sees them once every 3 or 4 years. And also, the other interesting thing is when Atlanta has gone into NRG Stadium in the two games, one without Ryan and one with, they have only averaged 11.5 points per game in NRG Stadium, and the one game was with Matt Ryan in 2011, where they lost to the Houston Texans by 7 points. So I feel like, again, with those numbers, with the Patriots' experience, and just with Atlanta's lack of defense, because, again, Atlanta's defense has been able to make plays, but I just don't think the Patriots will be able to close some opportunities and close some avenues that the Seahawks and the Packers could not do. It should be a great game, and I would not be surprised if Atlanta won the game. And personally, I am rooting for Atlanta just because I don't want to see New England get their 5th Super Bowl. But objectively, I feel like, again, I've taken New England every single week this year. Just maybe like most people that they maybe do these picks. So essentially, again, if you pick New England, you're not going to look bad. And as great as Atlanta's been, I just can't go against experience with how this team's been playing over a first-time head coach, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, first time in the Super Bowl. So, that's it. So, yeah, give me my thoughts, comments, likes, dislikes about the video. And that's it. So, everybody enjoy the Super Bowl. Tell me what you thought about my pick and my thoughts about the game. And I will be doing a recap video next week, so about the season and just kind of the future aspects I would like to think about. But until then, everybody have a great couple weeks before the Super Bowl. And until next time, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic signing off. Till then, so long.